The night was darker than usual in the quiet little town of Elmsbrook. The kind of darkness that made the forest whisper and the wind sound alive. Ethan Cole, a rugged, simple mechanic with hands calloused by years of hard work, was driving home after fixing a truck that had broken down outside town. His old pickup rumbled along the lonely road cutting through the forest. It was past midnight when his headlights caught something strange, a flicker of white at the edge of the woods. He slowed down. His instincts told him to keep driving. But something inside him, some tug of conscience, made him stop. He got out, the crunch of gravel under his boots echoing through the silence. "Hello," he called out, his voice firm but cautious. Then, from the shadows, a woman stumbled forward. Her white dress was torn, stained with mud and streaks of blood. Her hair, once golden, clung to her face in damp strands. She looked terrified. "Please, help me," she whispered before collapsing into his arms. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. She was freezing, trembling, and looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Without a second thought, he lifted her into his truck and sped back to his small cabin at the edge of town. The road seemed endless, and her soft breathing beside him was the only sound breaking the heavy silence. When they reached his cabin, he carried her inside and laid her gently on his couch. He covered her with an old blanket and stoked the fire. The warmth slowly brought color back to her pale face. Ethan poured her a glass of water and knelt beside her as she stirred awake. "You're safe now," he said softly. "I'm Ethan. What happened to you?" She hesitated, her eyes darting around the small, rustic room, as if expecting someone to burst through the door. "My name's Claire," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I don't remember much. I was running. There was an accident. I think someone was following me." Ethan frowned. "Following you? Who?" But she just shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. He didn't press her further. Instead, he made her some soup, gave her dry clothes, and told her she could rest as long as she needed. Over the next few days, Claire slowly began to recover. She was quiet, polite, and seemed grateful, but Ethan could tell she was hiding something. She jumped at loud noises, kept glancing out the window, and always avoided talking about her past. Yet, there was something about her that drew him in, a sadness in her eyes, a depth that made him want to protect her. One morning, while Ethan was working in his garage, he heard a faint sound from the radio. A breaking news report caught his attention. Authorities continue to search for Claire Whitmore, the missing heiress of the Whitmore Corporation, presumed kidnapped after her car was found abandoned near Pine Hollow. Ethan froze. He turned toward the cabin, his heart pounding. Claire Whitmore. The name echoed in his mind. The same woman was sitting in his living room right now, pretending not to remember who she was. He stepped inside quietly. Claire was staring into the fire, lost in thought. Ethan hesitated before speaking. "Claire, you need to tell me the truth." She looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I heard your name on the radio. You're the missing Whitmore heiress, aren't you?" For a moment, silence filled the room. Then her eyes softened with defeat. "Yes," she whispered. "But you don't understand. I wasn't kidnapped. I ran away." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Why would someone like you run away? You've got everything, money, fame." "No," she interrupted, her voice breaking. "Everything except freedom. My father controls everything I do. Who I see, where I go, even who I marry. He arranged a marriage for me with a man I barely know, a businessman twice my age. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to escape." Ethan stared at her, torn between disbelief and compassion. "So you just ran into the woods? That's insane." "I didn't plan it. My car crashed near Pine Hollow. I hit my head. I ran until I couldn't anymore. And then you found me." Ethan exhaled slowly. He didn't know what to say. She looked at him with pleading eyes. "Please don't tell anyone I'm here. They'll drag me back. They'll ruin your life too if they find out you helped me." He looked at her, her fear raw and real, and something inside him shifted. He had always lived a quiet, simple life, fixing engines and staying out of trouble. But for the first time in years, he felt alive. You can stay, he said. For as long as you need. Days turned into weeks. Ethan taught Claire how to cook over a wood stove, how to fix small things around the cabin, and how to live without luxury. She, in turn, brought warmth into his lonely home. They laughed, shared stories, and found solace in each other's company. Slowly, affection blossomed into something deeper. But peace never lasts forever. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, the distant sound of engines echoed through the forest. Ethan's stomach twisted. They found you, he muttered. Claire's face went pale. What do we do? Pack your things, Ethan said. We can take the old trail through the ridge. It's risky, but it'll buy us time. They hurried inside, grabbing what little they had. The roar of vehicles grew louder. Ethan glanced out the window. Black SUVs were cutting through the trees. They barely made it out the back door when a voice shouted, "There they are." Ethan grabbed Claire's hand and ran. Branches whipped against their faces as they stumbled through the woods. The night was alive with the sound of pursuit, shouts, flashlights, snapping twigs. They reached a small stream, waded through the cold water, and hid behind a cluster of rocks. Claire's breathing was ragged, tears streaking her face. Ethan. I can't do this. Yes, you can, he whispered fiercely. I won't let them take you. When the voices faded into the distance, they finally stopped. The moon hung high above them, lighting the path ahead. Claire turned to him, trembling. You don't have to do this for me. You could walk away now and never get involved. Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with determination. Maybe I could, he said softly. But then I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what happened to the girl who made me believe in something again. They reached an old ranger cabin deep in the woods, abandoned but still standing. Ethan started a fire while Claire sat nearby, exhausted. We'll stay here until it's safe, he said. The next morning, Claire woke to find Ethan outside, scanning the horizon. He looked tired but resolute. We can't hide forever, she said quietly. I know, he replied. But you deserve to choose your life. Not to be forced into one. She looked at him, emotion flooding her eyes. What about you? What will happen if they catch you? He smiled faintly. Then I'll tell them the truth, that I helped someone who needed saving. Before she could speak, a sound broke the stillness, a helicopter in the distance. Claire's heart raced. Ethan, they're coming. He turned toward her, his voice steady. Then we run, together. But before they could move, the cabin was surrounded. Armed men emerged from the trees, shouting orders. Claire stepped forward, tears glistening. Stop. I'll go. Just don't hurt him. Ethan grabbed her hand, refusing to let go. No. Claire. But it was too late. She turned to him, eyes filled with sorrow. You gave me something no one else ever did, freedom, even if it was only for a while. The men pulled her away as Ethan struggled against their grip. Claire, he shouted, his voice echoing through the forest. She looked back one last time before being pushed into a car. Days passed. The forest felt emptier than ever. Ethan went back to his routine, fixing engines, working alone, but the silence was unbearable. Then one morning, a letter arrived in his mailbox. It had no return address. Inside was a handwritten note. You once told me everyone deserves to choose their life. Because of you, I finally did. I exposed everything, my father's corruption, the lies, the forced marriage. I'm free now. And so are you. If you ever find yourself in the city, come to the Whitmore Art Gallery. I'll be waiting. Claire. Ethan folded the letter, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He looked out at the road that led out of town, sunlight streaming through the trees. For the first time in a long time, he felt hope. He picked up his keys, climbed into his truck, and drove off into the horizon. The story of a small-town man and a runaway millionaire wasn't supposed to happen, but sometimes fate writes its own script. If you felt the heartbeat of this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that touch your heart and spark your imagination. Your support keeps us creating more moments like this.